Fellow citizens and friends, we have started on a new path for our country, a path that gives great optimism for all Singaporeans. It's a path that will enable everyone to make the most of life, younger generation, middle-aged Singaporeans, as well as older Singaporeans, to make the most of life. Is also a path that will not just be about each of us ourselves doing well for our families, but also a path where we all take responsibility for each other, where we care for each other. This is what we have embarked on, our new path for Singapore. Opportunities for everyone to make the most of life, starting from young all the way to our senior years, but also doing more for each other. For the disadvantaged kid, for the middle-aged Singaporean who has a setback in life, and for our older Singaporeans, some of whom end up with little savings, or for reasons that were unanticipated, end up without family support. Everyone deserves care as Singaporeans. And this is a path that we start on from a position of strength, not a position of despair. We don't start with the huge debts that so many countries have built up. We start off with reserves, not debts. We start off with people who get along well with each other. A multiracial community, united. Sometimes we disagree on specific issues, but we all feel Singaporean. And we don't ask anyone to leave our country. We are all Singaporeans. This is a great position of strength. So let's have confidence and not feel never be mesmerized by countries that appear to be doing something wonderful by spending a lot of money on this or that. I'll come to it in a minute. We are admired throughout the world because we start from a position of strength as a society, as an economy, and we have a way forward that is practical and workable and fair. We have more to do. We are not a perfect country. We are not a perfect government. There's more to do. And we are quite straight about it. We are quite honest about it. What the problems are, what the challenges are. Sometimes even with policies that have worked well, there are new challenges because the environment changes. The economic environment changes, our society changes. Things get more difficult over time. So new challenges crop up, and we are quite straight about it. We are quite straight about the possible solutions, and we are never sure whether they're going to work. But we are quite straight that, look, these are possible solutions, let's work hard on them. And we are straight about how we are going to fund our solutions. Where do we get the money from? That's what good government is about, and that's what good politics is about. Never pretending we are perfect, being straight about the solutions, being honest about the challenges, and telling everyone up front where the money is coming from, who's going to pay, who's going to benefit. I don't need to use the limited time we have to go into all the details of what we've been doing, but you know we have shifted our policies. Starting 10 years ago, year by year, doing more for the kids when they're young, especially those who start off with less, those who come from poorer families, those who have special learning difficulties. We're doing a lot more. We now spend in our primary schools 50% more on the children who are weak in their learning compared to the average child. 50% more. And this is because of what we've done in the last 10 years, starting with preschool into our primary schools and also continuing into secondary school. We take very seriously social mobility. It doesn't happen automatically. It requires more government action and more community action. We take that very seriously. We take seriously inequality in the workforce, the plight of our low-income workers, cleaners, security guards, those doing the gardening and landscaping. We take it very seriously. And we're trying to solve that problem in a way that doesn't lose their jobs. And we're not finished yet. We have workfare, we have the progressive model, wage model, but we're not finished yet. We take very seriously the difficulties faced by middle-aged Singaporeans, some of whom find themselves out of a job suddenly, some of whom feel that they're not being adequately developed by their employers, that their potential is not being recognized. We take that very seriously. I take it seriously. Our team takes it seriously. And I should say there's no person in politics who takes that more seriously than Lim Swee Say. And we take very seriously the need to care for our elderly, particularly the poor, but also the middle-income elderly. Also the middle-income elderly whose children themselves have the task of making ends meet, doing well in their careers. They need support too. So we made many moves, and there's more to be done. But let me make this very clear. We are doing it in a way that is fair, where the rich pay more and the poor get more. We are doing it in a way that is fair because we're not pushing the burden to the next generation, to our children and grandchildren. That is what fairness is about. Making sure that you don't overburden the middle class, giving the benefits to the poor in ways that will help them get on their feet and do well and take pride in earning their own success, and making sure that the rich, the better off, contribute their fair share. But it is also about making sure that we don't simply pass the burden to the next generation. I've heard a lot of the proposals that have come up in these elections. Some were in the manifestos, some have come up in the heat of election speeches. It's standard fare, I suppose, in most democracies. I hope we'll be able to progress beyond this type of politics, although you see it in many countries, so maybe this is just life. This is what it's like. But let's be clear about it and see through promises that are false promises. There is no way of giving something to everyone, whether it is everyone getting $300 when they get older, or every child getting $300, and indeed there's at least one party that has asked for both things, $300 for every elderly and $300 for every child. Only the middle-aged don't get $300. There's no way of achieving it without raising taxes on the middle-income group. I've been studying this for years, a whole set of countries around the world. You cannot do it by just taxing the top 1%. That is a bluff. First of all, because the top 1% know how to move their money around in the world. But second, because you can't just jack up the tax rate to a very high level for the top 1% without having a change in your taxes for the top 5% and the top 10%. And there's no country in the world that has provided something for everyone without raising middle-income taxes. GST, income tax. That's the way it is done in France, in Germany, in Scandinavia, and the United Kingdom. That's the way it is done. The middle class pays very high taxes in order that everyone gets something. The example of France was mentioned. I think it was the SDP talking about the healthcare system. France is actually quite a good healthcare system, better than many other advanced countries. High quality, caring, humane. But it's an extremely expensive system for the middle class, not just for the rich, for the middle class, an extremely expensive system. So each time you look at these proposals, you find that they're only talking about what the government gives with one hand, without talking about what the government takes with the other hand. And of course, every government has to take taxes from people with one hand and give benefits with another hand. The question is, who pays and who benefits? Is it fair? When you take with the left hand and give with the right hand, are you doing it in a fair way? Are you giving more to the poor with the right hand compared to what you take from them with the left hand? And are you taking more from the rich with your left hand compared to what you give with the right hand? That's the real question. Every government has to tax people and has to give benefits fairly. Is it fair? That's the question. And there's no country in the world that has provided universal healthcare insurance, which means everyone gets the same benefits, everyone, including the rich, get the benefits, close to free healthcare, either free or close to free, without the middle income group paying more taxes. I'll give you the example of France since it's been mentioned. What are income taxes like in France? The average worker, I'm not talking about the rich, the average worker, income tax, 15%. And France has a lower income tax rate compared to many other countries I can talk about. I can talk about the Scandinavians, the British, and others. The French have a not that high an income tax rate for the middle income, 15%. Singapore, close to zero for the middle income group. GST, or what they call VAT, in France, 20%. There are some discounted tiers for basic foods and so on. But if you add together the income tax and the GST, or what they call VAT, even with the discount for food, the average person, average worker, pays well over 20% of his or her income in taxes to the government, just on income tax and VAT, well over 20%. So if you imagine it in a Singapore context, our average, our median worker, someone right in the middle of an income ladder, earns about $3,800. If you have that same French tax rate here, it means every month he or she will be paying the government $850 just on income tax and VAT or GST. And this doesn't count yet the payment for what they call payroll taxes, which is an important source of funding for the French healthcare system. Payroll taxes, which ultimately comes out of workers' wages, whether the employer is paying or the employee is paying, it's ultimately coming out of workers' wages. They have a 21.5% payroll tax, and out of that, they also fund healthcare subsidies. Income tax, VAT, payroll tax. When you add it together, the average worker, I'm not talking about the rich, the average worker has to take a whopping amount out of their monthly pay to give to the government. So when you think of free healthcare or close to free healthcare, when you think of the free social services that we all like the idea of, we all like that idea, you must realize that it is not free. The average citizen is paying for it and paying for it big time in these countries. And they're also paying more because everyone, including the rich and the upper middle income group, are also benefiting. It is not a fair system. It is not as if it is a fair system. Let me illustrate. If you look at Singapore, everyone pays some taxes, mainly GST. Some people, if they have a car, they pay COE and some car taxes. And if you're better off, you pay some income tax. Everyone pays some taxes, everyone takes some benefits. How much does the middle income group get in benefits, one form of subsidy or another, compared to the taxes paid? For every $1 paid in taxes by the middle income group, a family will get back $2 in subsidies. Education, healthcare, subsidies in retirement. Every $1 paid, you get back $2. And this is especially after this year's budget, where we strengthened our benefits for the middle income group. How does it compare? How does it compare with these countries which appear to have very fair systems? Free healthcare, free many things, or close to free many things. How does it compare? Scandinavian countries. If you look at Finland, for every $1 paid in taxes by the middle income group, they get back $1.30. Only 30 cents more than the taxes they pay. In our case, it's $2 back in benefits for the $1 they pay. United Kingdom, for every $1 of taxes paid, they get $1.40 back, slightly more than Scandinavia. Same thing for the United States. How much do the poor get? If you look at the bottom 10% of Singaporeans, for every $1 of taxes they pay, which is mainly GST, they get back $6 in subsidies. These are facts. $6. How about the rich in Singapore? Those in the top 10%. For every $1 they pay, they get back 20 cents. That's what I call a fair system. Don't overburden the middle income group. Give them a fair deal. Give the benefits the poor deserve, particularly in education and healthcare, in workfare, and through the other training subsidies that we have. The rich must be willing to pay their fair share. And you know that we've increased taxes, high-end property taxes, income taxes. The rich must be willing to pay their fair share and not begrudge their role in making sure we have an inclusive society. That's a fair system. But it is fairer than many of these countries that spend a lot of money on healthcare, on education, various things, by making it free or close to free, because in fact it is not free or close to free. They are collecting taxes with the right hand to give with the left hand. And the middle income group is the one that faces the biggest burden. It's a complete myth to think that these are egalitarian systems. They are basically systems of middle income tax, and middle income then asking, please give me benefits back. And still they don't get the same benefits that you can get in Singapore. So that's a very basic point we have to understand. There's no system in the world where you can give everyone something without taxing people, and especially taxing the middle income group. And we must make sure that our system is never one where we place a high burden on the middle income group. Those who have a car pay somewhat more. Those who have a maid, they pay some levy, which we've reduced, of course, in this year's budget. But try and keep income taxes low or close to zero for the middle income group. And try as far as possible to keep the GST low in the years to come. It is also a myth to think that, look, don't worry about taxing people. Let's talk about taking money from investment income from reserves. And several parties I noticed have mentioned this. Well, let me just say this. We are already maxing out on the investment income from our reserves. The Constitution allows us to spend 50% of the income on our reserves, and we are already maxing out. We are spending it fully on our increased social spending, on healthcare, on our infrastructure. It's fully used. There's no more money left there that you can just take without compromising the next generation. And it's not as if we are storing up a whole lot of savings for the future generation to have a better life than today. All we are doing is making sure that each generation gets the same benefit. Each generation gets the same benefit. We changed the Constitution this year to be able to take more of the returns earned by Temasek for spending on our budget. We increased income taxes on the rich. And in the last few years, we've increased property taxes for high-end properties while lowering property taxes for our smaller HDB flats. We made it more progressive. But when you add it all up together, We have taken measures that will give us $4 billion a year over the next 5 years, including Temasek in our framework for spending, raising income tax, raising property taxes. We have done it in advance. No bluff, no pretense. We've made very clear we have extra spending needs, especially in healthcare, where we are more than doubling our healthcare spending. More than doubling our healthcare spending. We need the revenues. We've taken the measures up front. So when I listen to some of the scaremongering that is going on, not only do they avoid talking about the taxes that they will have to raise if their proposals were to be put in practice, they avoid talking about that, but they also scaremonger, talking about what the PAP will do after the elections. That is just cheap. That is just cheap. We have been upfront, and I said it in this year's budget very clearly. We have raised the revenues we need for the next 5 years. With prudent spending, this extra $4 billion, in fact, I would say more than $4 billion per year, will allow us to meet our needs over the next 5 years. And that's what responsible politics has to be about. But let me also say that we are not just talking about who pays who benefits, how we redistribute monies from this group to that group. That, of course, is necessary, but that alone is not going to give us an optimistic future for all Singaporeans. We need to open up new opportunities for everyone, no matter where you start from. No matter who your father and mother were, what education they had, what jobs they do, what type of housing you live in. And there's still more to be done. There's still more to be done. To discover every strength and talent, give everyone confidence early in life, but also help them develop throughout life. We used to think sometime in the past that how well people do depends on what they're born with, or how well they do in education early in life. That's not true. There's so much to be developed during your life. You may start off weak, but you can develop your strengths through life. And we are going to make it possible for every Singaporean, through education, through expanding of our ITEs, polys, and universities, and through Skills Future. We are going to make it possible for everyone to keep developing through life. Because everyone has a talent, everyone has a strength. Not all of us realize it when we are young, but we can develop it over time. While we are at work, outside work, in the community, every way in which we can keep learning, discovering our strengths and our interests. Everyone has a talent that is useful to our society. There's a Chinese phrase or Chinese saying, I think it goes back to the old poet Li Pai. 天生我材必有用. Everyone is born with a talent that is useful. A talent that is useful for himself, his family, but for society. Everyone can contribute. And it's not just how you develop in primary school, because some people just don't have the advantages that allow them to develop well, or they just switched off, like I was when I was in school. But you can develop later in life. And we must make that possible in Singapore in a way that no country has achieved, developing through life, so that we maximize not just our individual potential, but our potential as Singaporeans together. That is what we have embarked on as our path for the future. Maximize opportunities, have a fair system, a fair deal for the middle class. Don't talk about proposals without being frank about what it implies for the middle class. Those who are better off and have succeeded in life, they must play their fair part. They must be willing to provide the tax revenues, and take pride in being Singaporeans. And for the poor, we've got to give them more support, starting from young and through life, including in their retirement years. That's our new path. And I feel proud to be here as a Singaporean to say that we start on this path from a position of strength, not weakness, unlike so many countries, because our pioneer generation saved up when they were young. Our subsequent generations kept that same ethic of working hard, putting something aside, and future generations will now benefit. Future generations will now benefit. Not just from the shade. It's not just about our ancestors planting the trees and the next generation benefiting from the shade. It's also about each of us. As we get older, we too will enjoy the shade. Keep planting trees. That's the most important challenge. Keep creating opportunities for ourselves, for our children, and also for all our Singaporeans as they get older. Let's go forward with strength and unity. Ayuh kita bersatu. Tuan Chair, Ichi, unite and go forward for a better Singapore.